All right. 5 minutes is really long when you're standing there watching it. But the 5 minutes is what allows everyone to get on board and know that we're streaming and all that. So welcome to Birdland Tonight. As these are kind of test shows as we build up and get ready for opening day. But there's lots of Oriole news to talk. So we've got a great mix of people. So instead of me going through and introducing you all, let's just introduce each other. So let's just go to my left with Andrew.
Okay, fair enough. I'm Andrew Stedka, at @Stedka on Twitter. And it's awesome to be here. I'm happy that Josh has kind of set this up for us to come and talk Orioles and kind of serve as a place for people to go after games, which people may not have the option to do now because of everything going on with Masson. So you can find some of my writing occasionally at utahstreetreport.com. And other than that, I'm just happy to be here tonight and chat some Orioles and some baseball.
All right. And below Andrew, we've got Bob.
Yeah, this is a really cool idea. Thanks for setting it up, Josh. But I'm Bob Fallon at the Oriole Report on Twitter. I write for Baltimore Sports and Life, and I'm a co-host for the On the Verge podcast about the Orioles minor league system with my co-hosts Zach Spedden and Nick Stevens.
All right. And minor leagues are going to be important this season. So I'm glad we got you here, and it's very important for this season to get ready for that. And next to you, we've got Matt, and below me.
Oh, hello. My name's Matt, co-host Section 336.
Good job, Matt.
Thank you.
You made it through the introductions.
I thought I nailed that. Yeah, I nailed that.
So we'll see.
Right, that 5 minutes is a long time. It's way too long. I feel like it's like the pace of play. We got to pick up the pace of play in podcasting as well.
Well, we're gonna discuss some pace of play stuff and with baseball, because baseball did make some rule changes, or they chose some rules from last year and continued them into this year. So why don't we start there with the pace of play? So the way baseball is going to fix it, we got to see it last year with the runner starting on second base in extra innings. Did you guys like it? Dislike it? What are your thoughts after seeing it work out?
Can I just ask a quick question about this?
Yeah.
And I'm not used to this is 4 co-hosts, which is going to throw me off a little bit. So I got to keep it quick. Keep it quick, Matt. But is this like, are we still under new like COVID rules? Let's get through another season of COVID and we'll talk about the rules later. Or is this more like a permanent thing? It's now a second guy on second base in extra innings. Like, is this just a year thing, or is this going to be the new norm?
It's a year thing. But when you do it 2 years and then you go into labor negotiations, it's probably the
could
new
be
norm.
Okay.
There's going to be a lot of these types of things that I think do stick around, and this I think might be one of them. I don't know for sure that like the doubleheader thing, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, is going to stick around, but I think this second base in extra innings rule is going to stick around. And to answer your original question, Josh, like I'm someone who has typically been a traditionalist and not like to see all this messing around. And going into last year, I was very against this thing, and I totally flipped after seeing it, because it really did just add a different element of strategy to the game, which is frankly something that we've been missing from the game. Everything is walks, home runs, strikeouts. There's less and less strategy involved in the game of baseball these days. And this at least gives you a taste of some strategy. It has managers playing mind games. And what are they going to do? Are they going to bunt the guy over to third base and try to get the runner at third with less than 2 out? Or, are we just swinging away still? That was fun to me. It was a cool element to it.
Yeah, I don't know if it added anything new to the table or if it was just something different, but I enjoyed it as well. It at least, you weren't playing for that double, single, go for the home run. There was a runner on second, like we saw Cedric Mullins, he stole third and then scored on a sacrifice fly, something like that. So, yeah, that's something new to the table. I'm a fan of it.
Are you against it, Matt?
No, I mean, we've talked about this before, but I'm always like, I look at other sports like basketball sticks out in my mind, even the NFL, how every offseason they're talking about new rules, right, to improve the game. And I feel like baseball has been a little bit slower to innovate because, baseball is obsessed with tradition. But I love innovation. So even if I don't know how I feel. I really don't know how I feel. But I like the idea that baseball is kind of trying these new ideas out and trying new things.
Yeah, and I like it a lot, actually. And I think I went into the season not liking it because being the more traditionalist, wanting baseball to stay. But suddenly it made extra innings immediately exciting instead of a dragging on part.
Do you guys like it for the long term, though, or do you like it for, this, like the small taste that we got it last year? And obviously it's going to be a thing for this season as well, whatever this season ends up being.
I say just go with it, and if it stops working, then take it away.
I mean, there was something with the NFL where people were talking with the overtime rules, right? Where they thought, oh, it's not like real football when just the first team scores. So then they added that you couldn't win on a field goal. You had to score a touchdown with your first possession. And I feel a little bit of that with the extra inning rule, where it almost becomes like the old NFL rules, where it cheapens kind of, that's not really how baseball works. You really don't start with a guy on second. You have to get the guy all the way around the bases. And I think there's something fun about the 15, 16, 17 inning games that you get occasionally, which we're going to see less of with the guy on second base.
But the way it's different from the NFL thing, at least both teams get the same advantages. Like in the NFL thing, the old overtime rule, one team may not get the ball. At least in this scenario, both teams are getting that runner on second base. It's not like one of the teams gets that advantage. It's the same playing field, and it's the same advantage that both of the offenses are getting.
Right. They just, it's not like they changed the rule to it's a home run derby now to win the game. It skips that part of the little bit of small ball to get a guy on base, and it jumps right to that, which puts pressure on your bullpen, your coach, and your managing, which just changed the game, but it only changes the game if you couldn't win in 9 innings.
Yeah, and maybe a better comparison is college football, right, where both teams get the ball on the 30-yard line or whatever. But I agree. I agree with Andrew with the idea of strategy, which more strategy in baseball, I think, is a good thing. So from that standpoint, yeah, I like it.
I will say, as an Orioles fan, I don't care if it's the old rule or the new rule. I'm going to watch no matter what. But if I'm just watching a random baseball game on TV, I want the runner on second so it doesn't drag on.
Right.
Well, and the last point I'll make that Matt said, like you don't mind seeing the 16, 17 inning games from time to time. The other element to that is you're trying to look out for players and bullpens and pitching arms. And not only that, but like from the aspect of trying to draw in some younger fans don't want to sit around for 4 or 5 hour games. They want their games played in 2.5, 3 hours max. And if baseball is trying to draw in a younger crowd, this can only help with that.
Yeah, but I don't know how much I buy this affecting this. I don't think the speed of the game affects a younger crowd. I mean, football is 4 hours long.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right about that. But at the same time, like if you're gonna, and I to that point, I also don't know how much baseball really truly cares about bringing in a younger crowd. I know they say that a lot, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, getting more runs on the board and more action in extra innings rather than just, ground out, strikeout every half inning, it will at least get things moving a little faster.
Yeah, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And it brings that pressure in the extra innings for you when you get the notification on your phone that some random games in the 10th inning, that it's an exciting moment.
Right.
All right, now,
Josh, before we get next topic,
Yeah.
I just want to give you a shout out in that, like, I was planning on hopping on here and being in bed by 9:30, but we're on our first topic and we're already at 9:15 just on topic one.
well, you forgot about
to
the
you, Josh,
5-minute
for running
video.
this discussion. About a 5-minute video.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah. So, all right, but I want to stay with these rule changes for a moment, because when you speak about changing the games and rules not wanting to change the games, I think the 7th inning doubleheader rule changes the game more than anything, and I hate that because of it. It changes a lot of strategy.
I go ahead, Andrew.
Go ahead, Bob.
Well, I was just going to say I don't mind it for the COVID related stuff for last season and this season, but I don't want this to be a permanent fixture. Go back to the 9-inning doubleheaders once we're through this pandemic for sure.
Yeah, I fully agree with Bob. Like don't make this a permanent thing, but for now, totally understandable. If they want to be able to, have teams traveling less on like for a 1-game full makeup day or whatever, and want to try to play more doubleheaders, but do it in a, condensed way just because of the COVID pandemic that is still going on. And, let's be honest with ourselves, likely will still be going on throughout the rest of this year to some extent. Even though there are things are appearing to look better with vaccinations and stuff.
Andrew's bringing politics into it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. No, I mean, obviously things are progressively this year going to get better, but it's going to be this thing's going to last throughout the season. So make that a thing for this season. But beyond that, I totally agree, Bob. Don't give me 7-inning doubleheaders from here on out.
How does the 7-inning doubleheader help with a COVID year? Is it because of less travel? Because there's no planned doubleheaders. It's still a normal season schedule.
Well, what it's going to allow them to do is it's going to allow them to schedule, like if there are rain dates, it will allow them to say, instead of having this team come back later in the year for 1 game to make up and add that travel to the schedule, it'll allow them to say, let's just play 2 tomorrow. And it's easier to play 2 7-inning games than it is to play 2 9-inning games. Like just from a time standpoint, from a, like we were talking about,
no, you're going 14
and everything else.
instead of 18.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Sure.
And I wonder if you're using less bullpen arms, so you don't need to make as many transactions, have people flying all over town.
Right. But then doesn't this give, if you have a great bullpen, if you think of like the Yankees of old that used to shut the game down by the 6th inning, you go into a 7-inning game, they're shutting the game down at the 2nd inning.
Yeah, that's why I don't make it permanent.
You got any thoughts, Matt?
No.
That wants to go to bed.
No, I agree. I agree with everybody else. I'm a fan of doubleheaders in general. I think baseball should have more doubleheaders, but the 7-inning doubleheader, I understand why they're doing it. Go for it and do it this year so you can make up games more easily. But yeah, long term, I'm with everybody else.
All right, sticking with this global baseball rules, real quick. They announced the rosters pulled back to 26-man. To me, I see that as a good sign that they expect minor leagues to run as normal. Is that what you guys take from that as well, or?
Hopefully. I mean, I know they're going to delay, I think, AA down to a month or so. By the end of May, they're going to get started. So AAA will start in April, and then hopefully spacing it out that way will allow it to go as normal. Relatively.
What's the deal with the 5-player taxi squad? So what's the deal with those guys? Are they playing in the minor league games and they can just call them, like, how does that work? Are they just
they go to the hotel?
Five special guys in the hotel.
This is similar to what they did. Yeah, this is similar to what they did last season when, really in the midst of the pandemic, like they wanted to have a couple of extra guys in case something happens in terms of contact tracing or an exposure of some kind. You've got somebody there to hopefully replace someone else that has been, away from the team enough, but is basically on call.
Right. Remember, most teams don't have the advantage that the Orioles have of so many close minor league teams. So it's, again, a travel thing. All right.
Well, but the other thing too with the roster size, like you mentioned, the 26 number is what we were supposed to have even before, COVID-19 was known of. So like that was what they were supposed to go into next year. So the fact that they are keeping that around is a good thing. And frankly, it just means, compared to what we used to have with the 25-man roster, it means 30 more major league jobs, which I think is a good thing. And it's something that will satisfy the players union more than anything.
And that will mostly turn into an extra pitcher in the bullpen, right?
You would think so.
Likely, yeah.
You would think so, but I think there's some teams that could utilize it as an extra bat off the bench, especially National League teams. If being that, I'm sure we're going to talk about eventually, no universal DH, which is a weird bit.
Well, it's a weird bit that they're not doing the universal DH. Okay, though many will say once they make that flip to universal DH, that will be a weird flip.
Well, but they did it last year, so that's why it was surprising to me to see that they were not going to turn around and do it again this year. That's why I say it's a weird bit.
Well, because
they're going back and forth like that,
right? Because they're trying to balance: is this a COVID year or not a COVID year? We're playing a full 162 games, but we also want to be careful with this other stuff. I think they're trying to balance both.
I think they're holding it for leverage, and I think it's going to end up being a DH in the NL once opening day comes around. I think they're going to hold it to try to get 12 or 14 playoff teams.
But who's holding it?
The owners.
Owners don't want to give it up. Okay.
I also am not 100% sure. I'm still not completely convinced we're playing 162, but I do think it's going to be 150 or more.
I think we're going to start April 1st with the plan for 162, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But I think I have a hard time saying we won't hit that when we just saw the NFL get their full season in. All right. All right. Now, one more global thing before we focus on a little Orioles is they did announce that they're going to deaden the ball this year. And this is after saying for years that they did not juice the ball. So suddenly we have to deaden the non-juiced ball.
Yeah. How come they don't just take the juice out?
There was no juice.
Oh, that's why. Okay.
So. Any thoughts?
Yeah, my thought is watching the Orioles play in the AL East. I'm all for it. If you want to throw a beanbag out there and play with a beanbag, any form of hitting the ball, I think it's good for Orioles pitching in the AL East at Camden Yards. So yeah, I'm all about it. Deaden that baseball.
Yeah, the only downside would be I think Chris Davis' comeback is officially gone.
It feels like Orioles pitchers have been throwing tennis balls rather than
that's
baseballs.
right.
Yeah, John Means, the only thing he did wrong last year was give up home runs, so I'm sure he's happy about this news.
Yeah, it's certainly good for a team like the Orioles, especially because of the park that they play in. The ball flies out of there. I mean, it's good for teams like that. But I mean, other teams, it's not, it's going to kind of level the playing field for other teams who are playing in bigger parks who have really good pitching staffs. So, I mean, I live out here in Arizona, and they use the humidifier for the last few seasons, or I should say the dehumidifier on the baseball, just like they do in Colorado out here because the elevation change. It's a similar kind of concept. They're just trying to even things out and level the playing field, it seems. But this is certainly, not bad news for the Orioles whatsoever.
I just wonder if it's going to have offense collapse completely with everything so relying on home runs. If you take them away, then what happens?
Right, and when we were just talking about how more offense is exciting for the younger generation, and now we're like, oh, let's pull it back and have less home runs. Yet we came from juicing the ball for more home runs, steroids for more home runs. Now let's back it off. It's a little weird and some mixed messages.
Well, it'll make all the old guys happy when there's fewer home runs and there's more doubles and more stealing bases and more of those kinds of things that we used to see in the game 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, I would be okay with more doubles and triples and that kind of stuff. And the other thing that makes this weird is just the transparency with this versus, I don't know, like baseball choosing when to tell us about what they're doing to the baseballs and not is weird to me too.
And
that's a really good point.
With science, is it like how do they know they're betting at 5% or whatever?
Well, they don't until it goes out there. They can do all these studies and tests. I mean, part of it is when you talk transparency. Remember, they bought the ball manufacturer years ago to make their own balls. So there's really no transparency they don't even care about any transparency. They
They're
grab the
gonna go
mud
to-
from a secret place in Delaware. It's all secrets.
They're going to go to dead in the ball and realize, oh crap, it was juice the whole time.
All right, let's bring Jimmy into this, who just hopped on and then he hopped off. So I'm not going to bring Jimmy in. All right, this is why we do the test show, guys. So we're going to just Jimmy popped in for a moment and then popped right out. A little bit of stage fright on Jimmy. But all right, let's look at some Orioles stuff. The news this week that I've seen Twitter go crazy about is this Orioles Maryland Stadium Authority 2-year lease extension. So Orioles Twitter is really scared about this 2-year lease, that it means the Orioles are only going to be in Baltimore for 2 years. How are you guys feeling about this 2-year extension? Good, bad?
I feel fine about it. I mean, I feel like Orioles fans live in a constant state of fear about the team moving or being sold. I think maybe this does to me say that they might be getting sold in the next year or two, but I don't think it means they're moving. There's a 5-year option in there. I think with all the COVID stuff going on, the uncertainty with that, they just want to, I don't know, kick the can down the road.
All right.
I mean, 2 years to me is not, I think we just got done talking about all these different rules that baseball is trying to implement because of COVID. That's all this is. This is a pandemic 2-year lease extension, because if there was no pandemic, I think this would look a lot different and it would be more long-term. I think the really important thing to remember here is that the state of Maryland and the city of Baltimore want the Orioles just as much as the fans want the Orioles. And that's what's going to keep this going for the long term. And I have to just take John Angelos at his word when he says that the Orioles are going to be in Baltimore as long as Fort McHenry is. Like that's until we see otherwise or have reason to believe otherwise. That's what we have to believe, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we had a comment over on Facebook where Andrew was saying, "Who owns this team when Peter Angelos passes?" And I think haven't they already handled that the two sons are going to step up and run it. As far as local groups, there's been rumors, but it's really just been the sons handling things.
Right, and there's a direct connection. I think we can draw this connection between John and Lou having more control of the team, and then John and Lou in turn handing more control to Mike Elias and less involvement with ownership just in general, which also I think leads to these rumors that maybe they're thinking about selling the team because it wasn't John and Lou who bought the team. It was Peter Angelos who bought the team, who was so heavily invested in the team. And Josh, I take issue with the premise of your question about scared fans on Twitter, as if Baltimore sports fans don't have a reason to be scared all the time about their sports teams. I mean, I think we have every right, with all the rumors going on in our history, I think we have every right to be skeptical and nervous and not trusting of our ownership group.
I saw someone comment to someone saying the Orioles will never leave, saying, well, just look at what happened in 83, which is a bad comparison because the Orioles won in 83. Yeah, the Colts left, but you can't use that for the Orioles because they won it all in 83.
This is also a longer conversation that we're not going to have time to get into tonight, but I have no reason to believe that the Angelos sons are preparing to sell. I know there's like a lot of things that are lurking and rumors that are circulating and things that you can read into, like the fact that they've cut payroll so much and are potentially trying to set the team up for a sale. But there's been nothing concrete to believe that they don't want to run the team. And Matt, you mentioned like them potentially stepping back. I think they're going to step back, but more into the business side of the team, less into the baseball operation side. And I think you're exactly right. They want a guy like Mike Elias to run the baseball side of it.
Yeah, and remember,
they want to set up concerts throughout the year to run, make money at Camden Yards.
Right. Remember all these moves that they make, that a business makes when they're getting ready to sell. It's the same moves a business makes when they're losing a whole bunch of money because no one's buying their product. Right. We had a year of no fans. We're projected to have another year of at least less fans. So you would make the same type of financial adjustments and changes to get ready and prepare yourselves for the future.
Yeah, and
Especially if you have no reason to think you're going to win anything anyway. So
yeah, exactly. And that's the low payroll thing, because why not lose with a $40 million payroll as opposed to losing with a $100 million payroll? But the thing that's confusing is the money. I don't understand, right? Because then you hear stories about them laying off a bunch of people or trying to defer arbitration salaries. Then the next day they signed Freddie Galvis and they're spending a ton of money internationally. So it's like the finances are tricky. What's happening there?
Right.
There's a lot going on throughout the game, but there's a lot of weird stuff going on with the Orioles. Like you mentioned, the deferred arbitration thing was weird, but the bigger kind of cloud hanging all over this that no one really wants to like fully recognize how unique it is the Masson thing. And that's, again, it's like a whole other barn door to open, but that is the biggest thing hovering over the business side and the money side of this franchise right now.
absolutely.
Yeah, I keep wondering. Yeah, and there's something about wanting to do it yourself and own it yourself, but it sure seems like why not sell the rights to the team for the TV rights? It seems like there's so many streaming services that want to get into live sports. It's an opportunity for the Orioles to kind of say, all right, here Nationals, here's a bunch of money. Let's just take this other money and again allow them to focus on the business side instead of running a TV network and a baseball team at the same time.
Well, and all that Matson stuff was going to be settled back in 2012 or something, right? And here we're still talking about it. That thing is going on forever. It's
every year. It's the same conversation. The Orioles owe the Nationals a bunch of money. Major League Baseball doesn't like Baltimore and the Orioles because of it. I mean, when was the whole talk about the All-Star game? And then, the Orioles aren't going to get the All-Star game because of the Masson dispute. That was like 5 years ago. So
yeah, it'll never end.
Yeah, and Andrew's asking about taxes and stuff when for him to hand it down to his sons. I don't know how any of that works. Rich people all have that figured out with trusts and everything, so I'm sure they'll figure that out. But you're right, the Masson and the firing everyone of Masson, cutting pre- and post-game shows, I mean, it was that extra motivation for us to do this, which is good for all of us, and we like this, but it sucks for the fans to have less product on a TV channel.
Yeah.
Well, and not only that, but they've seeded so much, I mean, part of the reason the Masson deal was made is because they were ceding territory and rights territory to the Nationals. So that's the reason that the Orioles got such a sweetheart deal with Major League Baseball to allow that move to happen. So why would you give up what you've already been, granted in that deal? Like there's no motivation for the Orioles to do that.
Right. Jimmy, you got the technical stuff worked out now?
I'm still getting an echo, so I'm not quite sure. Am I coming out to you guys or no?
We can hear you fine. Why don't you introduce yourself and then give us your thoughts on what's going on with this whole Orioles ownership thing?
All right. So I'm Jimmy. I'm the co-host of Bleacher Birds alongside Matt. Not that Matt, but the other Matt. Anywho, as far as the Masson or the Camden Yards deal, I don't necessarily know that it's a COVID deal. I think it's just a Band-Aid up until we go ahead and find somebody to sell the team to, and hopefully it's somebody local. I'm one of those people that thinks that it's a good thing that the deal got done, and it can potentially be extended. But again, I just think it's a Band-Aid until the Angelosos can sell the team.
All right. Well, Cody is wondering who your ideal new owner is. He's asking about Tom Clancy. Tom Clancy passed away a few years ago. So I don't think he will be the owner.
Like 8 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's been a while. So I know books last forever, but he is dead.
Thanks, Josh.
I don't know if there's got to be a better way to say that, but I hate this question.
We don't even know if they're selling the team.
We don't know if they're selling the team. We don't know who would buy the team. It doesn't need to be a local guy to buy the team. The Mets got a new owner. Everyone loved the new owner and was excited until the Robin Hood thing. So it's kind of, who cares who owns your team?
They'll love him again in a few weeks.
They'll love him again. Yeah, once he signs another free agent, they'll love him.
Well, not only that, but the first GM he hired had to be fired days later because of a sexual harassment thing. So
forgot about that one.
None of it's good. I mean,
right. So it doesn't matter. I mean, we all like Bisciotti as the owner of the Ravens. It's rare that you get an owner that you like. We all know
he's already come out and said that he's not interested.
Right. Well, it's also no one's interested now because it's not for sale. So you've got that going. But this is the fans in Baltimore love to talk about this and moving on from Peter Angelos instead of realizing in all those good years that we enjoyed 2012 on, that was Peter Angelos also as the owner. So your owner doesn't affect always how your team is. Now, if you want to bring up the Chris Davis contract, that's Peter Angelos.
Yeah, but to your point, so was 96 and 97. That was under Peter Angelos. Like, there have been good times and there have been really, really, really dark times under this ownership group. But I mean, the thing about like the Angelos, I hate to use the word regime because it sounds so like, kingly, but
right.
I mean, the thing about this owner, that's not what I'm trying to present, but the two Angelos sons have no reason or motivation to sell the team. They can run the team like it's been being run and continue the family legacy. I mean, the Angelos family in Baltimore is, a big deal, but they're a really big deal because they own the Orioles. What motivation do they have to sell the team just because fans don't like the way it's been run for 30 years?
Right. Their motivation to sell the team would be if they're not making money. It's a business.
Right. And they're doing that still. And they will be because everyone is.
Yes.
Right.
And the value of baseball teams aren't going down. They will continue to go up.
Right.
Exactly.
And again, new ownership, even if they do decide to sell, the team's not leaving Baltimore. You can have an owner that isn't ingrained in the city, like you were saying. Yeah.
Okay, Josh, I'm gonna quote you on that one. I got the audio of that. Okay.
You've probably had me
Keep that
saying it
one.
multiple times on Section 336.
Okay.
I'm good with saying the Orioles. I'll double down on Angelos' quote. As long as Fort McHenry's in Baltimore.
All right, fine. What else you got, Josh?
All right. Orioles have made a bunch of transactions, but we've gone really long with the Masson Orioles Stadium stuff. So I'm going to save pitchers and people we've signed and stuff. We can all talk about that on our individual podcasts. But the Frederick Keys announced today their new schedule. Remember, the Frederick Keys are no longer part of the Orioles minor league system. They're now part of this whole draft league of prospects. So my question for all of you is, do you care anymore about the Keys?
Unfortunately not. I mean, maybe if I lived in Frederick, I'd go to a game just to support the stadium. But as someone who just follows minor leagues for the Orioles, unfortunately, Aberdeen has taken their spot in my heart.
Yeah. I've been to a few Frederick games. Loved watching Orioles there. But as far as I'm concerned, I unfollowed them on Twitter. So that's how I feel about it.
Oh, you cut them off fast.
That's how you know it's real, is when you hit the unfollow button.
Yeah,
that's like making it Facebook official or something.
Right. I'm interested to see how this affects like fans that live in Frederick. Do they still come out and support and shake their Keys and all that? I mean, I'd make the drive occasionally to go see the Keys, but it's because I wanted to see Manny Machado or some upcoming superstar.
Or get a Dylan Bundy
the Golden Bundy. Yeah, like the Keys can't do Orioles related giveaways anymore. I'm not going to drive there to get my Iron Manny Machado. So you're right, and all that type of stuff. So I'm interested to see if the Keys are relevant or if this ends up being a little short holdover, like for MLB to try to not be completely the bad guys.
I hope so. I hope people come out and watch.
Yeah, me too.
Who's going to be on their roster? So I mean, obviously the Frederick Keys aren't going to be made up of the previous Keys now. And did they ever figure out what happened with that roster?
Yeah, that roster. I mean, the sad part about this is baseball teams are going to cut a lot of or have already cut a bunch of minor league players to try to balance this out because they'll be holding one less minor league team. And it's going to be a bunch of players who are not on teams to play there to try to earn their spot on the team or try to get the attention, get ready for the draft is how I understand it works, right?
Yeah, it'll be the college draft league.
Yeah, the MLB draft league. So they'll basically be like a tryout place for players who want to try to get drafted by a team. They can get some action in there, get some looks from scouts.
And Bob, is this right that the high A goes to Aberdeen and Delmarva stays as the low A team? Is that how that
that's
breaks
right.
down?
That's
Okay.
right. And that's good for me. I live pretty close to Ironbird Stadium, so just upgraded.
And so, but for Aberdeen, that's where players who were recently drafted would often go play there in short season ball. What happens to those guys now?
I'm assuming they'll probably just go to the GCL for a little bit and then maybe go up to Delmarva a little bit later in the season if they're ready for that.
Right. Okay.
All right, guys. Well, I think that covers kind of the news of yesterday and today in baseball and Baltimore-related baseball. So let's go around, give plugs for your sites again. Section 336 for me and Matt. Check out Bleachers Bird podcast for Jimmy. Andrew, you can read his stuff over on Utah Street Report. And Bob, you've got the On the Verge podcast over at Baltimore Sports and Life. All right, guys, thanks for being a part of Birdland Tonight. We are going to try to do this more often during the offseason as we lead up. And again, starting April 1st, after every game, you'll see discussions like this over on birdlandtonight.com and on all your social sites. Check out Birdland Sports and go subscribe and like so you get to turn on the notifications for all those so you can check us out. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Thanks.